Okay. Now, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Andrea Kelly. I am a volunteer with SCORE. Welcome in. Our webinar today is called Masterclass, How to Explore Career Transition into Business Ownership. We will get started here in 1 or 2 minutes just to allow everybody to come in. And if you would like, you can go ahead and say who you are, where you're from, and what you'd like to learn today. And we'll get started here in just 1 minute. Okay, we have 39 people in so far. Welcome. Welcome, Jose. Hi, Kenya. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome into our webinar today. We're talking Masterclass, How to Explore Career Transition into Business Ownership. Hi, Andrew from Atlanta. I'd like to know how to organize financials. Okay. Hi, Carrie. Navigating, cutting the corporate ties. Great. Moving into entrepreneurship. Welcome. Greenville, South Carolina. Welcome. We will get started here.
I see a question in there about will a recording be provided later?
I missed it. Yes. We will provide a recording. We will provide a slide deck. It will probably be sent out to you over the weekend. So if you hang tight, we'll get it to you in the next couple of days. Hi, I'm grateful for this opportunity. Learn everything you have to offer about transitioning. Well, yes, correct. Yes. Welcome. Great. Into buying a business. Welcome, Cal. Okay, we have 48. You guys, we'll give it 1 more minute. It's 12:02. Hi, Sandra from Durham. Okay, welcome. Welcome. Tamia, Lisa. Hi from Charlotte. I think we'll go ahead and looks like we got 48. We'll probably have some stragglers, but we're going to go ahead. Joe and Chippy, okay if we get started?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. All right, everybody can see my slide. Let me see. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to take a few minutes. My name is Andrea Kelly. You can see my slide. I am with SCORE Charlotte, and we are a national organization comprised of all volunteers. We are here to help you start and grow your business. So today I am your host and moderator for this webinar, which is called Masterclass, How to Explore Career Transition into Business Ownership. I would like to thank Joe Forbadusi and Chip Myers from Entrepreneur Source as our sponsor today for this great topic. So, as you can see, a little bit about our services. We offer free confidential mentoring. We have educational programs, online resources, and community outreach events such as networking and pitch events. So as I mentioned, we are a national organization, but here in Charlotte, we have, or here in North Carolina, we have 500 volunteers, and in the Charlotte chapter, we have 100 volunteers. You can see the chapters on our slide. If you're interested in learning more about our services, you can go to score.org, and then you can also type in your zip code about finding a mentor if you would like to get free mentoring services. So just a couple of housekeeping items. The lines are on mute, of course, because this is a webinar, but we would like to make this as interactive as possible. So please if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Joe, Chip, and myself will be monitoring the chat, and we will certainly answer them. So with that, I think I am done, and I'm going to turn it over to Joe and Chip. So I will stop sharing.
Great. Is everybody able to see what I'm sharing?
Looks good to me.
All righty, all righty. Well, thank you everybody for joining. I'm Joe Forbidusi, as Andrea mentioned, and my co-coach Chip Myers is with me. We're going to be doing this presentation together. But just a little introduction about us. Again, I'm an entrepreneur source coach. I'm a franchisee. I'm an ex-corporate executive. I was in the corporate world for about 30 years, I guess, and probably about 11 years ago. Um, I was asked to leave the corporate world. And so I chose to leave at that point and explore other options. It just really wasn't the right situation for myself. So I was awarded my first business about 11 years ago, and I acquired the Entrepreneur Source about 5 years ago. So I've successfully career transitioned twice now. And so that's where I bring. And now I help clients learn about how they can successfully transition and out of their career. Chip?
Yes, fairly similar story to Joe. Recovering corporate executive. Very convinced that I'm never going back to that world. I call myself proudly unemployable at this point. Um, I had a great corporate career until I didn't, right? It came crashing down on me. I was the VP of sales for a big company, and they sold to a private equity group who said, "Hey, we don't need you anymore." My journey a little bit different than Joe's. I figured out that I no longer wanted to be part of that world. And I was looking at buying a business because I didn't have an idea of what I could do on my own. And I quickly figured out that I was woefully unprepared to buy and run and fix a business that somebody else had previously run. I got introduced to franchising, and that seemed like a good path for me, just kind of leveraging what somebody else has already created. I got to run it, but I got somebody in the corner. So again, I'm a franchise owner, and just like Joe, I help people all over the country just consider what could be next in their career. And that's really what we want to talk through today. There's a lot of paths to business ownership. We're going to focus in on some on more than others, but the content is relevant because we want you thinking about things bigger picture as you're starting with those considerations.
Absolutely. And just to point something out, sometimes when a client hears the word franchise, it's kind of a big, scary word to them. And what I would encourage you to think about is when we talk about franchise, it's just a proven system, a proven model. We use it as an educational tool. Why not learn about something that's been successful as opposed to a hypothetical? So keep that in mind as we move forward. This is all of our contact information. So if you'd like to contact Chip or I, like to learn a little bit more about us, you can go to our websites, go to our LinkedIn profiles, our Google business reviews, etc. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the question that you're probably asking and give you the answers up front, and then we're going to go through it together to Chip's point. Usually we get asked is how do I make that successful transition out of my career transition into business ownership? And I'm going to tell you that the answer is three things, and those three things is what we're going to talk about. The first thing is, as you think about making a transition from the corporate world into business ownership, is to have a plan. Number one thing is to have a plan. Number two thing is to educate yourself. And then the number three thing is to align yourself with the right business. So many times an individual doesn't align themselves with the right business, which doesn't allow them to be as successful as they had anticipated. So have a plan, get educated, and align with the right businesses to learn. And so the other reason I'll talk about it, I would encourage you to think about another question is your why. Chip talked a little bit about his why, and I briefly talked about my why. It's very important to understand what's motivating you at this point. Why are you considering a career transition? You know, and this quote here talks about really my why: control your own destiny, or someone else will. And that's really the idea of being in the corporate world. You're not in control; someone else is in control. And I think Chip and I both felt at some point in our careers we were tired of that, and we really wanted to be in more control of our own destiny. So my challenge to you guys and encouragement to you guys would be is start thinking about what's your why. Why are you doing this? Because that's going to help you align with the right businesses as well. The second thing I'd ask you to think about is how versus what. So many times, you know, Chip and I will work with clients and they want to, it's like, what can I do? What's my business? What? And they're getting hung up on the what as opposed to the how. If you're thinking about a career transition, it should be about the how, meaning how do I want to be involved in the business? How do I want to live? How do I want to work? How? So think about how versus what, because that's ultimately what the exercises and our experience, coaching experience with our clients is about, is let's talk about how you want to get somewhere, how you want to live, how you want to work, and what's the right alignment of businesses that can allow you to achieve that. So as you think about any corporate job, or you think about any business ownership, as you think about maybe transitioning, is you want to really understand what are the benefits, and then also to what degree and to what severity, and how do you prioritize those benefits. So as you think about every business out there is going to give you, to some degree, a level of freedom. It's going to give you some level of flexibility, some level of fulfillment, whether it be a passion or activities that you enjoy doing. That's going to give you some level of fulfillment, maybe a financial fulfillment. And it's also going to give you some kind of a growth potential. Not all businesses and not all corporate jobs, as you know, grow the same way, and they'll grow differently, but they all have a scalability asset to them. So the goal really is as you go through the exercises, is think about, again, as your path, what does your path look like from a freedom standpoint? Are you looking to control your own schedule? Are you looking for income potential? Or do you want to make decisions? Are you in a situation where you don't get to make decisions? And again, what does flexibility mean to you, for an example? So really, what is it that we do? So we're entrepreneur source coaches. So we help coach clients through a coaching experience. That we've been doing this for 41 years. Chip and I haven't, but the Entrepreneur Source has been around for 41 years. It's a career ownership franchise, and all of us coaches, and Chip and I are franchisees. We're designed and coached to allow our clients to really explore what might be possible to them. So we do that through some coaching exercises that Chip and I will take you through, and we'll actually provide them at the end if you'd like. And again, we're going to align you with businesses that'll deliver the goals that you have. And again, as I mentioned earlier, when you think about franchise, it's not fast food, French fries, and restaurants, even though those are. It's not Jersey Mike's and McDonald's and Chick-fil-A. Those are franchises. But really what this is about is learning about businesses that can deliver the goals that you've set forth for yourself. And so we're going to do that, and Chip's going to dive deeper into these. But really, the first exercise that you would want to consider and that you want to think about is a self-reflection exercise. That's where you're going to self-reflect. Really, what are you trying to get accomplished? What's your next version of yourself? And we talk a lot about it. Chip will get into it: income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity, ILWE. The next exercise is really more of an assessment that you'll go through, and you may have heard of it or taken it in your career. It's called the DISC assessment, and Chip will get into that, but it's really kind of what makes you unique and different. Again, we're all unique and different individuals, and the goal, again, I go back to, is the alignment part. You really want to align yourself with businesses that appreciate and can enhance kind of who you are and what you are and how you want to go about achieving your goals. The third exercise that you would complete is business characteristics. As I mentioned, as you probably are very well aware of, every business is very different and unique. They have different characteristics, different versions of what success looks like. So the goal really is to define kind of what's right for you. And again, align. And again, all these exercises are not long exercises. They'll take maybe 20, 25 minutes each to complete. So again, it's a thought-provoking exercises for you. And then once you go through the exercises, then the education really starts to kick in, where you have the opportunity to go through discovery and validation. That's where you're meeting with businesses, and you're going to discover new information, operations, training, marketing, systems, etc., financials. You're going to meet with franchisees, people that are actually doing the business, and learn from firsthand from individuals who have done that transition. Again, this is another great quote that kind of goes back to my why: build your own dreams, or someone else will hire you to build theirs. Again, very, very prevalent in the corporate world. If you're working in the corporate world, you're basically building someone else's dreams, and you're not building your own. So again, think about what's your why and think about your how. So I'm going to turn it over to Chip now. He's going to dive a little deeper into each of the exercises that we would encourage you to think about. And we provide all this for you, but again, you'll be able to be challenged with some thought-provoking, self-assessing characteristics.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And listen, there's one thing I want to be clear on. Joe and I are not brokers, right? So we do not sell businesses or franchises. We're on the educational side of things. I'll speak for myself, and I know Joe is the same way. I don't want to be the one choosing your future for you. You will make better decisions about things like that than I ever would, and I don't want that responsibility. We just want to give people a framework so they're in the position to make the best choices for them, themselves, and their families, whatever those are, whether that's getting into business, whether that's investing in a franchise, whether that's staying in the corporate world. Your outcome is your outcome. We want you to have clarity on what that best outcome is for you. But when people do start thinking about, hey, I want to be in business for myself, to Joe's point, they do tend to start with that question, what business should I own? That's not inherently bad, but that oftentimes leads you down the road of passion and the things that you already know. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but the world doesn't always care what you're passionate about, and they don't give a dang about what you know. And so sometimes those end up being businesses that aren't going to get you to your goals. So our proposal, if you want to think about it that way, is just approach this differently and start it from that perspective of what do I want and what are my objectives? And so we have a method to the madness here, and there are some tools that we deploy to everybody, and you'll all have access to these. Just to start from that why first, right? Because the ultimate goal, the destination, if you want to think about it that way, the destination has to come first. You'll figure out the vehicle later, but figure out the destination first and foremost. So this is a lot more about why. And there is a worksheet that we have, and we call it U 2.0, and it's conceptually just that. It's everything up to this point in your career and your life is the 1.0 version of you. What do you really want that 2.0 version to look like? And this is where a conversation emerges about goals. And we'll start break that down a little bit, but on a very high level, this is kind of it's an opportunity to step back. And if you've got some loosely formatted vision for what you want your life to look like, if that's the objective, where do I need to see myself in a year to feel good about my progress? Okay, because whether it's a starting a business from scratch, whether it's buying an existing business, whether it's investing in a franchise, none of those things are going to be get rich quick schemes, right? They're all going to build towards something. So you need to have a little bit of a realistic, longer term view. So where do you need to be in a year to feel like you're making some progress towards that? Then secondarily, it's just an opportunity to get real honest with yourself, what you're worried about if you're in that career transition space, right? And we work with people that have left jobs or jobs have left them. And we work with a lot of people that have very good jobs, but they're comfortably miserable. Like that they want an out, but there's so many things that they're worried about that they just cling to exactly where they are. So this is an opportunity to get real honest and say, what are the things that I'm worried about? If it's the work world, right? A lot of people that we talk to these days, obviously they're concerned about layoffs. They're concerned about, and what's the question I get all the time, right? Hey, AI is coming for my job. No, it's not. I mean, it's coming for your tasks. It's not coming for your job. But those are examples of questions, right? Am I going to age out, right? Are there going to be additional opportunities for me? If it's related to being in business for yourself, right? Everybody's scared of, hey, what if I fail? Or, can I afford to do it? Or is this the right time? The point is to come up with all those questions and all of those things that you're worried about and make note of those so that you can start turning those into actual questions. And rather than saying, can I afford this? Start thinking about it in terms of how could I afford this? What if I fail? Well, what if you succeed? What's life going to look like? So take stock of the things that you're worried about so that you can come up with plans to overcome them. And then more importantly is start thinking about, if you were freed from all those worries, what are the things in life that you want to focus on? What matters to you? And this is where a lot of the conversation about goals is really going to emerge, whether they be income goals or lifestyle goals or wealth or equity goals. What's important to you? I mean, for some people, it's all about driving income. Maybe it is replacing a corporate income. Maybe it's additional income on the side. Maybe it's more flexibility to be with kids. Maybe it's just being able to own the calendar. Maybe you want to build something you can sell. Maybe you want to start creating a legacy, something that you could hand down to your family. But what are those things that really matter to you? And then lastly, take stock of where you're starting from. I mean, I've worked with people in their 20s. I've worked with people in their 60s. you can learn new skills no matter where you are. People think, well, I haven't worked very much. I don't have the skills. Well, you can learn skills. Or people, I had a conversation with a gentleman last week that he was fairly insulted by an HR person who said they were worried about his ability to learn new technology. I mean, I've been learning new technology for 40 years. You can always learn new things, but what are the strengths that you have? What are you confident with, right? Do you have a bias towards action? Do you have a strong network of support? Do you have a take no prisoners attitude? Those are the things that are going to right? That's the stuff you're going to lean on, because anything that you do, right? Whether it's starting a business or investing a franchise, or even if you change industries, it's going to be new, right? It's going to be something that you haven't done. And there's going to be some challenges with that, and you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So again, take stock of what you're skilled at or what your strengths are. Now, to start breaking down these goals, right? Everybody talks about goals and nobody ever writes them down, right? And one of the first key things to think about in terms of goals is having them actually written down, putting a name to them. Right. And this is what we really do challenge people to do. And it's easier if you start to break these things down into buckets. So we talk about these 4 different buckets: income, lifestyle, wealth, equity. We're very acronym heavy, just ILWE for the purposes of conversation. But it really is about, what do you want more of in your life, both personally and professionally? Income, I would argue, is a fairly obvious one, right? Income it's the earnings that you get from whatever you're doing, right? Investing, owning a business, working for somebody. But start to envision something off in the distance. And we encourage people to think 3 to 5 years down the road. You got to get real about year one, but start to envision, what do I see my income as 3 years down the road when I am successful in living the life that I want? Right? Work backwards to the first year. You do need to take a stock, especially if you're thinking about, leaving a corporate role or just starting a business as a full-time endeavor, right? What's it going to take to get me to those income goals? What would I realistically expect in my first year? And you can start to think about goals and needs and expectation. Goals are the aspirational things, right? That's what you're striving for. Needs are the very real things, right? You might have a goal of making, $400,000 by your third year, right? But you may only need $100,000 by your third year. I'm just throwing that out there. If you know a business can get you to your goals, but maybe year one is going to be really lean, right? Then you can start figuring out, what do I need to do to prepare for that in year one, right? Maybe that becomes a question about, how do I fund a business in such a way that I can pay myself a salary while I'm ramping the business up to the point that it's going to generate the income that I'm really striving for. So getting real honest about those income goals, and again, break it down in 1 year, 2 years. Lifestyle, that's really important, because you might be running after money, but if the business doesn't support the life that you want, that's when you're going to burn yourself out. So these 2 things tend to work in conjunction. Pay a lot of attention to how you want to live, not just how you want to work. Right? If the business can reach your income goals, can it reach your lifestyle goals? I can't tell you which is more important. That's a personal thing. But again, your income goal and your lifestyle goal do tend to work together. And this can be things like, being able to work from home, or being able to work virtually and remotely because you want to travel, not having to work on weekends, not, only being willing to work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Doesn't matter what your goals are, write them down. They're your goals. This is ultimately what we want to try to solve for. And the purpose in coming up with all of these is to make the subjective objective. It's being able to say, these are the things that I'm trying to achieve, and then looking at all the different opportunities and possibilities out there, being able to say, does business X generate the financial income goals that I want? Does business X give me the lifestyle that I want? If you can check all those boxes, great, then you have options and you can make very informed choices. if the business gets you to your income goals, but doesn't give you the lifestyle goals that you want, again, you got choices to make. You can sacrifice things, but it's a way to evaluate businesses versus when you start something from scratch and you don't really know what the trajectory is, that's all based on hope, right? We want people to work based off facts and information and data. Wealth and equity goals, they tend to be a little bit longer term. Wealth goals, generally defined as net worth. Equity goals are, the assets that you own. Those two things can work together. Sometimes the reason people get into business for themselves is they're at a point in their career, they're eyeing retirement, and maybe they've got a gap to fill and they can't fill that by income alone, right? So they need an equitable asset that they could grow and sell to close that gap. Sometimes it's about creating family legacies. Sometimes people want to have something that they can grow and scale into an empire. Your goals are your goals. The important thing is to write them down and have clarity about this. Everything else becomes, how do I get there? So the other thing that Joe talked about, and this is also part of our process, is this assessment that we take everybody through. And a lot of people are familiar with DISC assessments. It's been around for 40 years. It's used a lot in the corporate world. I would argue that it's probably used incorrectly a lot. I used to use these when I was a hiring manager, and I absolutely used them wrong. DISC is not designed as a predictive indicator, right? There is nothing in one of these assessments that says, Joe Forbidusi is like this, and therefore Joe can or can't do that. It's more about how you're wired, how you show up, why you show up that way, what motivates you to action, how do you respond to things? Because the more you understand that, the more you can start to see what are the ideal environments I should look to find myself in? Where can I just be me? Right? Where can I stop trying to fit myself into somebody else's box because I've found the box that fits me? So it measures a couple of things. DISC itself, which is what most people are familiar with, measures these four aspects of human behavior that we all have in varying degrees. And to the degree that you score in each of these categories, it creates these narratives about you. Loosely defined, dominance, it's how somebody handles problems and challenges. Influence is about other people, right? How you influence people to your way of thinking, how you interact. Steadiness, it's all about pace and consistency. And then compliance or conscientiousness, depending on how you want to define it, it's all about procedures and constraints and rules and regulations that are placed on you by somebody else. Deeper than this, there's also a section of this that talks about what motivates you, right? So this is, if DISC is how you show up, there's this whole section about behavioral motivators. It's why you show up that way. And when you understand that, you can start looking for the environments in which you can truly be yourself. Because if you can find yourself in a business or a job or in a task, and it's an environment where your natural behavioral styles are rewarded and you're getting the behavioral motivators that drive you to action, look out, man, because now all of your energy and effort is focused on your success. So this is a really important thing. It's really more for you than it is for us, but it's all about understanding what makes you tick and why. Joe, I'm going to turn this part over to you just to talk about kind of the next step in the journey once we've kind of defined that North Star for everybody.
Absolutely. Great job. Thank you, Chip. So obviously the first step, as Chip mentioned, is really kind of defining that foundational roadmap, if you will. What are your goals? What are your concerns? What are you worried about? How do you show up? What are your skills and so forth, your strengths? The assessment, as Chip said, is really about what environments would be ideally for you to be a part of and that you could be successful in. And then the third big section or the third bucket that we look at is the business characteristics. Because again, not every business is different. So the goal really is for you or our client is to kind of understand what do they feel or what do you feel would be the best environments. Or again, are you looking to, as Chip talked about earlier, are you looking to keep your corporate job? Is this going to be in addition to what you're already doing? So that would be a structure that we'd want to look at that allows you to do that. Are you looking to be a semi-absentee owner, for an example, where you're looking to be the overseer of the business, not the doer of the business? Or are you looking to be an owner operator? Chip and I, this business that we do, we're the owner operator, obviously. So when we're coaching, when we're not coaching, our business is not being done. So we're the owner operator. But in my prior business, I was a semi-absentee owner. I had technicians that worked that business for me, and I oversaw the technicians. So the goal really here is how do you want to be involved in the business? It goes back to the how. The other thing that you'll talk about, and Chip mentioned, is what kind of environments are you going to be looking for? What are the environments that are conducive to you and being successful? Are they work from home? Are they virtual? Is it a brick and mortar? Is it a mobile based business? What kind of environment would be right for you? And the goal really, again, as I talked earlier, is about alignment. Because we've been doing this for so long and we work with over 250 or 60 different franchise businesses, we're able to align our clients with the right educational opportunity. So it's really about educating yourself. I know there was a question out there earlier, is this strictly franchises? And the short answer is yes, because we use franchises as an educational tool. They're proven models, proven systems, and it really allows our clients the opportunity to see what success could look like. Chip and I both work with clients that have their own business ideas and want to start their own business. And we don't discourage that. But what we do encourage is the opportunity for them to go through this experience and learn about successful businesses that have already done or are doing similar things to what they want to do or you would want to do. So you can really understand what does success look like so you can plan for it more appropriately. The other part of the education that we'll talk about and we'll identify is that initial investment. All businesses are going to have an initial investment or startup cost. In a franchise, it becomes very clear because they're going to explain to you all the initial investments, all the financials. You're going to get exposure to it. They've had years and years of history of this, so they're going to share with you what that initial investment looks like. And it usually is made up of three big components. The first component is going to be what's called a franchise fee, and that's really you're buying an asset. So you buying a business, you own a business. The other big second part of that initial investment is going to be a startup package. So all franchises are going to identify what the startup package looks like from a marketing perspective, training, supplies, etc. And then the third big element of that initial investment is going to be working capital. So working capital is going to be the money that you're going to need in order to cover the expenses until that business becomes profitable for yourself. Now, the advantage of knowing all this up front is you're able to plan for it, as Chip mentioned earlier, and you're able to finance it if you choose to. Because one of the number one reasons why a business will fail is because they don't have enough money and don't know what the startup costs are. And this is just a great way of getting educated on that. And then another big component that you're going to want to identify, and Chip's talked a little bit about already, is what are the key activities that you enjoy doing? Where are you comfortable at? What are the things that bring you joy or bring you happiness or parts of your passion? Because every business is going to define these are the key characteristics of what an owner looks like. So a successful owner is going to do these types of activities and is going to show up in this kind of way and is motivated by this way. And again, that's why these assessments and these exercises are so important, that you're able to align yourself with businesses that, again, that appreciate kind of who you are, and where you want to go and support you in doing so. So really what all these exercises revolve around are three big components. So I would encourage you guys to think about these three things and think about how do you define them and then how do you prioritize them. Because again, if you think about any corporate job out there that you have or would be considering, or any business that you're looking to learn about, all such things are going to deliver these three things. If you think about a corporate job, it's going to provide you some form of income or salary, and you have a potential to earn X amount of dollars over a period of time in that corporate job. It's going to, from a time commitment standpoint, you're going to be asked to work so many hours per week, and it's going to take you so long to achieve the level that you want to get. And every corporate job is going to deliver some level of passion. There's going to be activities that you enjoy doing and things that you don't enjoy doing. So there's going to be some fulfillment and maybe not so much in some cases. No different than a business. But the good news is if you're considering a career transition and you're looking to own a business, you're in control of all this. So you, as Chip and I have been talking about, you can define all this and learn about businesses that are going to deliver exactly what you're looking for, how you want it, and when you want it. So the goal really, again, is to identify these three things and what they mean to you. And then how do you rank them 1, 2, and 3? Because as Chip mentioned earlier, not all businesses are going to deliver the same financial results. They're not going to give you the same passion level, and they may not give you this ask for the time commitment. And that's what goes back to the what. So many times when a client will say, I have this idea, this is what I want to do, they really don't know what maybe the time commitment will be in that particular business, and they may not know what the financial returns will be in that business, but it does fulfill that what. And that's why, again, we approach it from the how, because it's so important that all three things are fulfilled proportionally based off of your goals and how you want to move forward. So we're gonna make the assumption, Chip made it earlier, that our goal as your coach is really to help you find clarity. And each step of the process or the experience is designed around clarity. Are you clear that maybe this is a path for you to consider? And if so, continue down the path, or is it a path maybe not for you to consider, that maybe corporate is better for you? But as you go through each of these exercises and you work with Chip and I, usually it's about two to three Zoom calls of about 45 minutes to an hour. So the overall commitment is really about 3 hours, about an hour of prep work and maybe 2 hours of coaching. And after those are completed, if you feel like, hey, this is something that I can see myself doing, and I really want to educate myself more and learn more and gain more knowledge, then you really will enter into the second phase of the education. And that's called discovery and validation. And so Chip's going to walk you through what that discovery and validation phase will look like.
Yeah. So again, now you've kind of defined your objectives and your North Star, and you've kind of gone through that exercise of what I say is being unrealistic and saying, hey, here's kind of the ideal situation, right? Here's the profile of what I would like business ownership to look like, right? And if we work with somebody that has their own great idea for a product and a service, great. You might go in a different direction at that point. If you don't have an idea for a product and a service, this is where we do encourage people to learn about franchising. We can't tell you that that's the right path for you, but it is a path, right? And again, the more you know your options, the better choices you can make. So what Joe and I will do at this point, now that we understand your objectives and your vision and your values and kind of the business characteristics that matter to you, he and I will go out and we'll do research on your behalf, and we'll come back to you with a couple of examples. Notice I said examples, not recommendations. We are not in the recommendation business, but we'll come back with a couple of examples of business models that seem to line up with all of those things that we talked about. But really the objective is for you to get in and start educating yourself and start to understand how or if you could use a business as the vehicle to get you to those goals that we've already talked about. And that in of itself is a process. So we've had a number of conversations up to this point, and we've gone through a number of thought exercises, but going into this next phase of discovery and validation is now really you trying to solve for those objectives, right? And so when we bring forth business ideas, it's not our responsibility to be the ones necessarily educating you. Joe and I are not an expert in the 4,000 different franchise business models that are out there. We represent you. We don't represent them, right? But we'll pull them in and we'll arrange for you to be able to have these conversations and dig deep and understand and do this in an environment, a really safe environment where you don't have any pressure to make decisions. So this is discovery. It's not decisions. And as I always tell my clients, curiosity doesn't always equal commitment. Okay. But the process of doing this correctly is not always what people think, right? Everybody thinks I can just go online and look up information. And that's kind of like driving by a house and just looking at the outside and saying, I want to buy it, right? You got to get inside, right? You got to walk into all the rooms. You got to go in the crawl space. That's what discovery and validation is all about. So initially, you'll learn more about businesses from a brand perspective. And Joe and I can talk generally about that stuff. But to start to understand the facts and the data so that you can prove or disprove whether something can get you to your goals, that's going to take digging a little bit deeper. And franchise companies have a structure and a way that they take people through this journey. And it's going to be a series of phone calls. So initially, when you talk to somebody, and these are safe conversations, there's nothing you can say or do that's going to obligate you to anything. And every time our clients have a conversation with somebody, we get back together with those clients and we look at those goals, and we're pressure testing, right? How does this business get you to your lifestyle goals? How does this business get you to your income goals? What's it going to take? How long will it take to get there? What do you have to do as an owner? Right. And so you'll understand along the way, you'll start to understand systems and operations and how these companies train somebody that doesn't come from an industry to be good at what it is that they do. And bear in mind, franchising doesn't work in a vacuum, right? This is not like I'm going to invest in a business and then everything's going to be fine. The structure is there, the systems are there, the processes are there, but it's never the business that's going to make you successful. It's always you that's going to make you successful. You got to bring the firepower and the work ethic and all of those things. You just want to find the vehicle, again, that you can drive that's going to get you to the destination. So one of the things that you'll start to get into, franchising is a very regulated industry. You'll get documentation, right? And that documentation is going to give you a lot of data that is not available if you're trying to start a business from scratch. There's nothing wrong with starting a business from scratch, but a lot of that is based on hope and assumptions. And at least in franchising, you can get some idea, right? So they're going to break down via a document that you'll receive. They're going to break down all the costs and fees associated with ownership. They're going to break down the obligations that they owe an owner in terms of training and support. They're going to clearly enumerate what their expectations are. You're going to generally have some kind of idea of financial stability. There's usually consolidated financial statements, so you can see the health of the overall enterprise. Nobody is ever going to tell you here's exactly what you can make, but a lot of these documents will at least give you examples of quadrants. If they've got 100 locations out there, here's the average top line revenue of of the top 25% of performers. Here's the bottom 25. Right. You want to understand what's the difference between those two. Why is somebody succeeding? Why is somebody not succeeding? Nobody's ever going to give you net information, right? That's going to be a function of how you run your business, but you're going to have data. You're going to understand cost of goods sold. You're going to be able to create performas and make assumptions, right? And when you get to that point, if you get to that point, you're going to have the opportunity to actually talk to business owners, to owners in those brands, and understand what life really does look like and how they run their business, and would they do it again? Maybe those are a lot of times the best conversations, because sometimes you'll hear, this is the best decision I ever made. Sometimes you hear, this is the worst decision I ever made, and run for the hills. But that's good information regardless. And again, you're tracking this all back to your goals with our help. One of the things that people mistake is that franchises are bought and sold. They actually aren't. They are awarded. Okay, so a franchise company, if they are worth their salt, they want the right people in place, and they're evaluating you every bit as much as you were evaluating them. And at some point, you might get invited to come to a corporate office, or to get online and meet with the executives. And what they're trying to do is make an assessment: is this somebody that we would want in our system? And at that point, if they say yes, then they'll make the choice, and they would say, hey, Joe, we think you would be a great owner. We'd like to award you a license. That's the only time in this whole journey you ever have a decision to make. And your decision can be as simple as no, thank you, or yes, absolutely. Now, along the way, the question about funding inevitably comes up, because again, that's one of the big fears way back at the beginning. How could I afford a business? Can I afford a business? Joe and I will help you get some information on that. We're not funding guys, but we have relationships with companies that specialize in small business funding. And we can help you educate yourself on what are the levers that you could pull if you ever did want to get into business for yourself. And by the way, this can be very helpful whether whether a franchise business ends up the right path for you, or whether starting something on your own ends up the right path for you. But Most of my clients are surprised to understand how many options they do have. Everybody thinks about traditional bank loans, right? And if you're starting a business from scratch, bank loans can be very hard. A lot of times businesses from scratch or businesses from the ground up, those are bootstrap budgeted. Those are friends and family. But when you start to look at things like franchise businesses or even businesses for sale, there are a lot of other options out there. The Small Business Administration is a huge part of this, and a lot of small banks will participate in SBA loan programs. Really, what you want to do is have a conversation with an SBA lender, because what that person is going to do, the SBA doesn't actually lend anybody money. The SBA is an intermediary where they will look at your application and they will understand the franchise business and they will shop those loans around to lenders. And essentially they say, all right, Mr. Banker, Mrs. Banker, this is Joe's application for this business. We are the SBA. We think this is a good loan and we're going to co-guarantee a part of it. So the SBA becomes a way that you might be able to secure lending. Now, it's very paperwork intensive, but it is very feasible, and you can roll in all the project costs. You can roll in those franchise fees, startup costs, working capital, improvements if the business is a brick and mortar business. And there's a number of different programs out there. Now, the SBA does like to see certain credit scores. The SBA wants you to have pretty healthy debt to income ratio. They want to see a current source of income, and they're always going to want you to have some skin in the game. So there's some different loan programs. Generally speaking, things under $150,000, you're probably going to need about a 10% cash injection. There are even different ways to get that cash injection. Things over 150, you might need a little bit more. So the SBA is one path. There are things out there called rollovers for business startups, where if people are debt averse, but let's say they have big 401ks or IRAs, there are actually programs out there where you can leverage those funds for the purposes of starting your own business, where you don't pay penalties and taxes like if you were to withdraw those funds. And there are companies that will walk you through that and make sure that you're legally compliant and all of that. Further from that, there are things like unsecured loans, which if you've got a strong credit rating, an unsecured loan can be a very quick way to funding. It's typically a little bit faster than the SBA. And a lot of times you don't have to pledge the personal assets. It's just based on your ability to repay. Outside of this, there are lots of other things, right? I've had clients that used existing home equity lines of credit for working capital. I've had clients that went the friends and family route. And sometimes it's using combinations of all of these things. But again, it's educating yourself about your options so that you can make informed choices if you ever do get to the place of wanting to do something. So, Joe, I'm going to let you take this part.
Thanks, Chip. I want to circle back to one thing, just the validation. I know Chip talked about the validation where you get to meet with franchisees. I will tell you that I hear time and time again from many clients that they seeing that as a huge value as they go through this experience. I will offer a personal perspective. I found it to be a huge value myself, because you can kind of dictate in a sense of who do you want to talk to. So as I mentioned, my first time I went through this experience, I was in my early 50s, being in the corporate world for almost 30 years. So I said, I really want to talk to individuals like myself, someone who's in their early 50s, maybe have kids in high school and college, who've been in the corporate world for 20 or 30 years, because I felt like I could relate to them a little bit differently than maybe somebody else. So again, the goal really in that validation is to find individuals that you feel can be good resources for you to learn from them as well. So it can be many different things. But ultimately, a lot of times Chip and I will get asked the question is, how do I know if I find the right business? As Chip has mentioned earlier, we're not matchmakers. We're not going to recommend anything. We're going to offer some coaching advice and some support and direction. But what we always talk about and what this experience is really about, and Chip's talked about it earlier, about there's really no pressure here. There's no sales. There's no stress. There's no obligations or commitments, just a curiosity. And really what it is, it allows our clients to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. So many times as you are learning about something new and different, the unknown, it becomes uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable. And that's really what this experience is about, as being learning how to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Chip also mentioned this a little bit earlier, and I'm going to reiterate. is really what makes a business successful ultimately is going to be you, the individual. And what you want to learn about is that last 20 or 30%. And what I mean by that is all franchise businesses, because they're structured, they come with support and guidance and history and all the things that you need to be successful, but they're going to get you to the starting point, that 20, 70 to 80% out of 100%. And then that last 20 or 30% of success is going to be you, the individual. And that's what you want to learn about. And that's what we've been talking about is, do you see yourself being like those successful individuals? So as you learn about what success looks like in that particular business, in the individuals who are successful, do you see yourself showing up the same way? Do you see yourself doing some of the same things and having the same involvement and impact? And if you do, that's a business you want to learn more about. And if it's a business that you don't see yourself doing, then you need to run. An example of that might be and again, there's no right or wrong answers to anything as we go through this. It's what's right for you. But me personally, I'm more of an introvert, believe it or not, and I don't like knocking on doors, and I don't like cold calling, and I never have and never will. But there's some businesses that require you to, in order to be successful, that you're going to have to make 100 cold calls a week or something like that. And if that's not right for me, and that's what you want to learn about is, do you see yourself being like the successful individuals? And if that's what it takes to be successful, that would be a particular business that wouldn't be right for me. So again, it's about understanding and learning what is that the gap, right? Because the franchisor should fill that gap. You should bring so much to the table, they bring so much to the table, and that should be the 100%. That should fill the gap. If there's still a gap there, then it's probably not the right business for you. I know we've had some questions and individuals have said about franchising, and a lot of times there's a perception around franchising, not only what it is, but also maybe in some cases that it's very restrictive, and in some cases it could be. But what I always coach, and I know Chip does too, we talk about franchising is just a proven system, a proven model. It provides guardrails basically to keep you from falling off the road. And every business has those guardrails in different spots. So if you're an individual that has a lot of creativity and innovativeness and wants to be more on your own, there's businesses that allow you to do that. I'm quite honestly, I'm the same way. And if you're a type of an individual that just says, give me the playbook, I want to execute it, and just tell me what path to go down, there's businesses for you out there like that and everywhere in between. And that's really what you want to understand. And that's really kind of defines what this statistic is. And I would encourage you to chat GPT this or Google it or whatever. And what you're going to find is about 85 to 94% of all franchise businesses are considered successful in their first 3 years and remain open after 5 years. While non-franchise businesses, about 50 to 60% close in the first 3 years. So there's a huge disparity between what success looks like between a franchise and in a non-franchise business. Now, as Chip mentioned, we don't discourage individuals who want to start their own business. We only encourage education and knowledge going in, knowing what it's going to take to be successful. And the two big disparities of why this is the number one thing is the level of support. In a franchise business, you're going to get support and systems and coaching and strategies and marketing. You're going to get everything you need in order to be successful. Whereas in a non-franchise business, you have to develop that on your own and you have to figure it out on your own. And it can be done, but it's a little more challenging and has to be more thoughtfully approached. And the second big reason why a franchise business will succeed over a non-franchise business is the financial aspect of it. As Chip talked about earlier, when we talked about in a franchise business, you know exactly what the initial investment cost is going to be. And you also know what the ongoing costs are going to be. So you have a really good understanding what working capital is going to be needed, et cetera. Whereas in a non-franchise business, you really don't know what you don't know, and things cost more than you think, and you need to get third party resources, and all of a sudden you start bleeding money, and you don't have enough money to sustain your business, and you go out of business because you don't know what you don't know. And that's where, again, we don't discourage individuals who want to do their own thing. We only encourage you to learn and get educated. So if you want to do your own thing, we would encourage you to learn from a franchise to understand what it's going to take to be successful so you don't fall into that 60% category. Another question we get asked a lot is, if entrepreneurship and franchising is so wonderful, or business ownership, why aren't more people doing it? And it's a great question. And the simple answer is fear. Fear is the number one emotional detour that keeps us from making any life-changing decisions, quite honestly. So whether it's changing jobs, relocating, buying a new home, getting engaged, getting married, starting a family, buying a business, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a life-changing decision that we're going to make, fear starts creeping in. And fear is the number one reason why individuals don't move forward. And what we talk about all the time is simply false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. And it goes all the way back to the first conversation that Chip talked about. What are you worried about? And the goal really is to be very transparent and honest with yourself so you can get education around what are you concerned about and get those questions answered. And what you want to learn about, does it fall into the 92%, which there's many studies out there, and I would encourage you to Google this as well and ChatGPT it. And you'll find many studies out there that will tell you somewhere around 92% of all the things that we worry about and that you worry about, anxious about, fearful of, never happen. So only 8% happen, quite honestly. And that's what we want to encourage you to learn about, is what you're worried about and keeping you from being successful. Is that part of the 8% or is that part of the 92%? And that's really the education will come in and help you with that. And as we've been talking about it along the way, there's three big factors of fear why individuals don't move forward. The number one fear is of change. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I don't want to change. So fear of change could be the fear of the unknown. I don't know what this is going to be. I don't know if I can be successful. I'm afraid I might fail. Or it might be the fear of finance. I don't have enough money at this point in time. I don't know if I can make enough money. And I smile when I hear that, because I think to myself, and I'm sure if you started a family, someone will always say, I'm going to get married when I have enough money, or I'm going to start a family when I make enough money. And those days, you can't think that way. You have to think about what is the right thing for you, and at least get educated and learn about what might be possible. And this quote really talks about that as well. It talks about courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear. And again, Chip and I have talked about this. No matter what, you're going to have a little bit of a pit in your stomach. You're going to have a little bit of fear and a little bit of doubt. You'll never be 100%. There is no such thing as a perfect business. And the goal really is to understand, are my goals more important to me than the fear that I might have of getting educated and learning about that? And this chart really explains it in graphic form, is that most people never get out of their comfort zone. And that's why that they're never able to grow. And as you can see, in order to get out of your comfort zone, you've got to go through the fear zone. And in order to get through the fear zone, in order to learn, you have to get through fear. In order to grow, you have to get through learning. And so I commend all you guys and ladies today for being here, because you're already starting to get out of your comfort zone, and you're already starting to probably get into this fear zone, maybe in the unknown. And the goal really for you, and the challenge for you, would be is to keep pushing through this experience, or experience like this, that was really a safe environment to help you learn and get educated in order for you to grow and make good choices. Because that's really what this is about, as Chip has mentioned earlier. It's not about decisions. It's about learning and making good choices for yourself. So I'm going to turn it back over to Chip, and he's going to talk a little bit about next steps and what that might look like if you're interested in learning more.
Yeah, I love that slide, because the comfort zone is the silent killer of dreams. So,
Right.
Look, everybody that I've been doing this for 9 years, right? And anybody that tells me they're not a little bit worried, they're flat out lying to me, right? Right. It's new, it's scary, it's different. And that's one of the reasons that we do things the way that we do, is we want to give people an opportunity to explore and do discovery without feeling the pressure to make decisions, because that can change people's lives. And Joe and I could both give you stories about a lot of people that we've worked with, and that might come out in the Q&A. But going forward, look, if you feel that this stuff is valuable to you, there is a method to our madness. And when we do work with clients, a lot of this stuff is in a password protected section of both of our websites. So Joe's got his website, I've got mine. And what we could do is we could give you access. Usually, all these thought exercises, they're arranged in tiles on our website, and we would just strategically open kind of one at a time based on where our clients are in the conversations. But because you guys have attended this program and we've already talked about a lot of this stuff, if you wanted to engage, we'll open up we'll open up a bunch of these different resources for you. Now, we hadn't talked about this, but Joe and I are essentially funded by the business and the franchise community. So we're a free resource to people that do want to learn. Now, that said, our schedules are busy, right? So, we do want to work with people that are curious, but your outcome will be your outcome, and we're not here to choose it for you. But if you do want to engage, what we'll do is we'll unlock a number of these tiles for you. We would send you just a login and a unique password to get into that section of the portal. And the first couple of things that we would unlock for you are what we've talked about here. There's a tile that's called Discover What Makes You Unique. That is the DISC assessment. That's your opportunity to take one of these assessments. And if you were to go online and just look for a DISC assessment, that's a couple $100. This is a free resource that we provide. You'll be able to download that report, and we'll get together with you and talk through that so that you understand really what it means. The U 2.0 exercise, or that reflective exercise, that's called Write Your Own Success Story. And again, the more time you put into that, the more you will get out of it. So give yourself a chance to just think through it. There's a book that we have that, we'll send out to anybody that wants to engage. And this, right, it's not War and Peace. This is not a huge read, but it accompanies this whole conversation. And obviously it leans a little towards business ownership, but it's more about you just being really intentional on what you want your life to look like, so you can go out and find the things that are going to get you there. And then there's also the exercise about defining the business characteristics that matter to you. And that's tell us more about you. So we'd give you access to all of these. And then we would just set up a time to have a conversation and start talking through this and answer a lot of questions one-on-one. We are not everybody's cup of tea, but you probably have a lot of questions for us. Engage. We'll help you figure it out. It's not our objective to choose your future, but it is our objective to help you think a little bit differently and maybe get more oars in the water.
Thanks, Chip. And thank you, everybody. So we're going to open it up for questions, but I did want to reiterate one thing. Is this, the client portal will be emailed to you. You'll have your own access to it. There is no end date to any of this. There's no time frame to any of this. This would be your experience, so you would be in control. So you'll schedule your appointments and do your prep work however you see fit. So again, whether today's the day to start or 6 months from today, it doesn't matter to us. And however long you take to go through the process, that's up to you as well. So, but I'd love to open it up now. And if there's any questions you have, please feel free to drop them in chat. Or if you'd like to unmute, you can do that as well. Whatever is the easiest. We'd love to answer anything for you.
Hey, Joe, there are a couple of questions out here because there's the chat and there's also the Q&A. And there's a couple of things out here. Somebody wanted some example stories of how we've helped people. You got anybody you could talk about off the top of your head?
Yeah, you know what? I'll give a personal example. So when I left the corporate world about 11 years ago, I think I mentioned I had a son in college and a daughter in high school. I was 52 at the time. And so I really started working with the coach to help understand where I was at my life at that point and what I wanted to get out of it. And really where I was at was I wanted to look at businesses, for example, that I could be semi-absentee. I wanted to look at a business that I didn't have to be the doer of the business. I would be the overseer of the business. I wanted to look at businesses that had multiple revenue streams, for example, where I wasn't doing one thing, I could do many things for a client or a customer. I wanted to look at businesses to what I considered to be recession proof. I wanted to look at businesses that I felt that could be a quick ramp up, because some businesses will ramp quicker, some businesses will take a little longer. Again, none of these characteristics are right or wrong. They just are what's right for that particular business. And the goal is to align yourself with that. So my coach helped me, in addition to kind of who I was, what my goals were, to look at these kind of characteristics of businesses. And so I looked at businesses that had my return on investment was 1, my time was 2, and my passion was 3, because I defined passion personally as the activities that I enjoy doing. And the activities that I enjoy doing was managing projects, leading a team, solving problems, things like that. So that's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to run a business. So the business really was a return on investment type of business. spinning ahead, 5 years ago when I was looking at opportunities at a different point in my life, I wanted to look at businesses that I could be anywhere in the world, that had no territories, that was a virtual home-based business, that had no employees. And I looked at businesses like that. And it also allowed me to do a higher level or high degree of my passion, which was helping others, coaching, educating, teaching, mentoring, things like that. So those are just two examples, but every client has versions of that where they want to define where they're at in their life and what are the kind of the business characteristics will allow them to take advantage of where they are in their life and where they want to go.
Yeah, I've been doing this for almost 9 years. And so there's hundreds of people out there that I've worked with. And of course, not everybody gets into business for themselves because not everybody should. But regardless, they go through this exercise and they come out the other side and they say, this was fantastic. I learned a lot. And hopefully they refer people to us. Some of those folks will go off and start their own businesses. Some of those folks will say, you know what? I realize I'm not cut out to be a business owner, and staying in the W-2 world is the best path for me. And that's a great outcome. Figure that out. And yes, some people will invest in franchise businesses. The stories that I like the most are the people that ended up in something they would admittedly never have looked at on their own. And that's most of the folks that I work with. And I always like to tell the story, and I'm not going to name him, but he was a controller at a big financial institution here in the Charlotte area. We do work all over the country. This is just particular examples here in Charlotte. Just brilliant guy, had a very successful career, but he was a controller, right? And his life was sitting in an office and with green eye shades on, basically staring at spreadsheets. And he was like the most vivacious, outgoing person in the world. And so he did very well financially, but it just wasn't fulfilling for him. Fast forward, and I won't get into all the details, but he runs a home improvement business right now. Now he is not qualified to swing a hammer. Like, he has absolutely zero skills regarding those things. I wouldn't trust him to, install a light bulb in my house, but what he's exceptionally good at is budgeting, and he's a great manager of people, and he loves to get out and just talk with his clients while his team is doing the work. So he's running a handyman business, and he has no handyman skills whatsoever, but he loves his life now, right? And so those are the cool stories, is that people that just make these wholesale transitions. And if he had stuck to what he did, right, he'd stay in banking or finance, and there's nothing wrong with that, but he wanted more than what that corporate world was able to give him.
Yeah, I
No
think
shortage of
that's a great
stories.
story. What I would also offer to everybody is that Chip and I have no preconceived notions that business ownership is right for you or for any of our clients. But what we do have, a lot of times I get asked, what does success look like? And I will tell you what success looks like to me is when a client comes to clarity. And that's whatever that clarity is. And I know Chip feels the same way. And both of us are batting 1,000 when it comes to that. Every one of our clients come to clarity, whether it's clarity that this is not the path for them, or their own path is for them, or the corporate path, whatever that path is, but they all come clarity.
Okay, do you guys see that there's two more questions? Does your service
Um,
does your service assist individuals who are entertaining the thought of expanding a family business from the West Coast to the East Coast? Do you see that?
didn't see that one, but that's awesome. Congratulations on having a business where you're at the point of scaling it. I don't know that Joe and I are really either qualified to be business consultants. That would probably be more. I mean, maybe Joe is. I'm well aware of my inabilities, but that's probably more for a SCORE mentor that
Right,
you might be able to find locally. And I think that'd be a
right,
fantastic resource because that's its own set of challenges.
Mhm.
right. So if you just go to our SCORE website, score.org, you can type in your zip code and find a mentor, but we certainly probably have somebody that can help you scale for sure. And then Tamia has a question. Are you both able to help someone with a business plan and possibly help someone who is interested in starting a business from scratch, organize the process for building? That's also SCORE, but before I say that, I'll let you answer it. I'll defer to you first. I don't know.
No,
Go
you're
ahead, Joe.
absolutely
You want
right,
to take that one?
Andrea. That would be SCORE for sure, that you would work with SCORE if you want to start a business from scratch. the next thing where Chip and I could come into play would be is if you wanted to learn about a business that's already out there doing something similar, just to understand all the dynamics of it, to maybe shore up your business plan and make sure that you have the right business plan. That would be the only way we would be supportive. But SCORE would be probably your number one resource.
Right. Let me see. We have knowing these things. There's some stuff in the chat here. Knowing those
Some
things.
of them may be my answers already. I'm trying to keep
Oh,
up.
okay. Oh, okay. 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 Does anybody else have any questions? I think we've answered everything from the Q&A. We'll keep it open for another minute or two. Anybody want to put anything in the chat? Please go ahead.
So just so everybody knows too, Chip and I will be reaching out to you over the next couple of days. We'll send you emails giving you our contact information. So if you want our contact information, you'll have it. You'll be able to schedule a time, as Chip mentioned, on our calendars. And we'll be able, and if you are interested in starting and getting the client portal access, we can give you that as well. So we'll be reaching out in the next day or so.
Hey, but
Perfect.
thanks for good for everybody on this, just for taking the first step and trying to
Right.
learn a little bit. That's what most people will never do. You're already way ahead of
Way ahead.
most of the population just by
That's
attending.
right.
That's right. That's right. Education is very important. Research is great. Everybody's saying thank you. Before everybody drops off, I have a little video that SCORE would like me to run. Again, as I said in the beginning, that we are a volunteer organization. So I know it's a very difficult time right now. You may not have any extra funds, but if you choose to and you have and you are willing, we would certainly appreciate it so that we can continue to bring you these educational webinars. So I have put the PayPal link in our chat. And if you would just hang with me another minute while I run that before we close this up. Let's see. And let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and whoop. That's not what I wanted to do.
Before we wrap up, I want to take just 1 minute to say thank you for joining us today. We know your time is valuable, and we're honored you chose SCORE to help you grow your business. Now, SCORE has always offered these webinars free of charge. But here's the reality. Due to changes in federal funding, some of our support has been delayed or even cut. And while we're committed to keeping these programs free, we need your help to do it. Think of it like this. 6 Today's webinar gave you real value. Maybe leave us a little tip, the way you would for a waitress who gave great service. Or maybe you want to give forward so the next entrepreneur can benefit just like you did. We're only asking if it's within your means. If it's not, please just keep learning and growing with us. But if you can give $5, $10, $25, whatever feels right will be directly helping us keep these webinars free for everyone. There's a secure link in the chat. Takes less than a minute to make a difference. Thank you again for being here, for your energy, and for supporting SCORE's mission to help entrepreneurs thrive.
Perfect. So with that, I think we have any other questions? Oh, one more. So thank you everybody for attending. And then Beth says, may we receive, oh, you already put it in there. Chips, put your information is in there. Again, you will be receiving a copy of the slide deck. You will receive a copy of the recording, and that will have all of their information. You'll get that in the next couple of days. So with that, this concludes this webinar. And I want to thank our sponsors today, Chip Myers and Joe Forbidusi from eSource, for presenting such a great topic. So thank you again. And that concludes our webinar. So have a great day. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, Andrea.
Great stuff.
Bye. Bye.